Hello and welcome to our show. This is the Analytic Energy Agency, and my name is Alexey Presnov, and we're again with you on our English language broadcast, which we produce every like 2 or 3 weeks. This is, of course, summertime today, and not so many events are happening. But only something is happening, of course, and of course, the most of our attention is brought to the international agenda and international affairs, this geopolitics, which were happening right before our eyes, and we see all those meetings, political meetings of Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, and then Trump and Zelensky, and Trump and the European leaders, and we all of us. So we hope that all these things, which influence us a lot in all terms, and especially in our economic development, they will come to an end finally, and the war will be over, and will be some peace solution, and of course it will bring some determination what to do next, and in our in the power sectors as well. Now let's start from Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan wants to have not just one MPP, nuclear power plant, but three NPPs. As you know, and that first one is under the beginning of construction, or at least some the ceremony of opening the construction was already held in Kazakhstan, and this station will be constructed by Rosatom, Russia, on the shore of Lake Balkhash. That place was chosen long ago, and it used to be the place for just a thermal station back in the Soviet Union times. They planned because it's in between the northern energy zone of Kazakhstan and the southern energy zone. There are three power lines from that zone, northern zone, which is abundant with electricity, and the southern zone is deficit. It experienced deficit of electricity, and so there are three power lines, and of course that's just long enough, and the power station in between, like this some prop up for this kind of bridge. This power line bridge is it would be very effective in all places, in all senses. And but the thing is that still there are no data about how much it's going to cost, and actually it's very difficult. And some observers, and some speakers in Kazakhstan, they just know that circumstance that the speech or these tenders were held, and Russia was chosen as a constructor, Rosatom, I mean. But anyway, there are no parameters, economic parameters. Why they have chosen Russia? Was it cheaper? Was it more effective? Was it, some other parameters? Nobody knows about that. It's very, murky, and it's difficult to understand, even for us. Of course, we are kind of fans of Russian Rosatom, but still, it's unclear why they have chosen Russia. But also, they have told that Kazakhstani government, I mean, they have told that two others will be constructed by China. This company, CNNP, right, as China Nuclear National Corporation, CNNC, right. And why they have chosen China, again, it's unclear, and it seems to many observers that it's kind of political decision. One we give to Russia, the second one to give to China. No, because of course, China and Russia, they're close neighbors and allies of Kazakhstan to some extent, on some terms. It's clear that they have some preferences over, let's say, French or Korean tenders or that tenders. But the thing is, still, it's not very clear, and that brings kind of uncertainty also in that process. And also, of course, what is important. It's unclear how much uh, money it costs to will it cost, and what kind of tariffs finally will be introduced to recoup those investments. It's very important things because in Kazakhstan, what we're watching right now, the prices for electricity, they're skyrocketing on a wholesale level. It's about now 30 tenge per kilowatt hour already. And I just wanted to remind you that when they started 2 years ago, it was projected that 11 tenge per kilowatt hour, and then it happened like 13 tenge per kilowatt hour. But now it's there 30 tenge per kilowatt hour because of every like 2 3 times a year they just raise tariffs for those producers for generation because there are no market there. I mean, no marginal market. There are no competitors there because they just come to the Minister of Energy and they inflate their cost and they request for more and more, higher tariffs, and so it's kind of negotiation there in that sense, and Ministry of Energy gives them finally their applied tariffs, whatever they applied for, with some, of course, with some discount from their requests. But anyway, it just brings these prices, wholesale prices of electricity, average wholesale prices up, and on average now they are 30. But you have to understand if we talk about investments, investments are not there. Investments on the other sector of the market. There is a so-called capacity market. Of course, it's not a market that just capacity kind of payments there. But there, right now the price of capacity is about 2 tenge per kilowatt hour, but in the very near future, it's going to be like 15, 17 per kilowatt hour if all those projects, all those programs which are already announced and adopted by the government, if they uh, carried out as a plan. And that will bring, another, skyrocketing rise of prices. And our calculations show that it's going to be like 60, 70 tenge per kilowatt hour very soon, within the next few years. And that, of course, just throws the economy of Kazakhstan out of business, so-called, comparing to other countries and neighboring countries, China, Russia, Kyrgyzstan, and others. And that's a problem, and which the government faces. But they are very optimistic. They just emanate kind of optimism because if you just read those articles, the newspapers, or I mean those government sites, they've recently somebody calculated that Kazakhstan exceeds Russia in GDP per capita. And they are 14 with 500 or something, $1,500 per person per capita, and in Russia it's just a little bit less. What does it mean? Does it mean that economy is growing very fast? Yeah, that means so, but there are those structural problems which, of course, the government needs to resolve as soon as possible. Uh, if we just look at what is happening in Russia, Russia also in a kind of stagnation because Russia is influenced very highly by those uncertainties of all those geopolitical things, all those restrictions, all those sanctions. And of course, everything is on pause, kind of on pause in Russia, because everybody just holds back their breath and try to figure out what's next. No, in our sector, we can see that there are some tenders or concurses with regard to new constructions, and we see, repeatedly that no one comes to those uh, tenders, and they just fail. They failed recently. Uh, it was last one, two last ones for Khabarovsk and Primorsky Krai. It's far east of Russia, and no companies just come to came to this tender, and the government again should somehow directly uh, designate some companies. Normally, it's state-owned companies, or state share companies to move them to make them to construct those objects because there is a as we know there is a plan for 40 trillion rubles, which is $400 billion for the next 18 years to spend to renovate Russian power industry, and then experts say that it will be more those economic experts that possibly it will be much more money because it seems that all those calculations which were made a year ago, they are already obsolete. And of course, everything is just directly influenced by the situation around Ukraine, around all those negotiations, and that is why it's so important for us to see some kind of to see an end of or the lights in the end of the tunnel. The problem is also in Russia that there are no ideas. There are no ideas how to restruct to construct the structure, actually the market investment segment of the market, because it shows it's a very poor performance in the conditions of all those black swans, which we saw lately for several years already. And so when the prices went, the inflation is high, this interest rate of central bank is very high. Now it's 18%. So it used to be, as you remember, 21 very recently. But 18% is still, it's very high. So it's all those, multiple prices on investment sectors. So one price for, one tenders, and one prices for, new generation for modernization project, and the third prices for old generations. So it doesn't work, because they don't compete. All those things are, to decommission or commission some, objects or some, generation. They are just managed manually, and that this is, of course, it's not a market at all. And also this link between the operational market, which is operational and which is quite effective in Russia, and the investment market, which is not effective at all. Just this link is also broken already. We see that it's when they plan those tenders. Actually, they just make it kind of tariff, and they just think and forecast some kind of income from operational market to this investment market. So they just determined by some kind of prognosis, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work because the market is very vivid, and it's live, and especially in these unpredictable times which we live. That is basically about it, for today. We will see what will happen because, of course, as I said, everything depends on international agenda and geopolitics, and we hope everything will be fine in a very soon period of time. Thank you for watching. Hope that next time when we meet with you in English, we will see, we'll have some more clarity about the prospects of development for Kazakhstan and Russia in terms of sectors. I just one thing, I forgot to elaborate on the this nations got to three CHP. Yeah, CHP, it's three CHP, which Russia was about to build. It was designated to build by bilateral agreement between the Russian government and Kazakhstani government back in 2024. And we have already that kind of video on that, and so probably you saw that. And Russia was unable to deliver because of those things which I just mentioned about high prices, high cost of money, high inflation, and Russia feels a little bit squeezed by all those circumstances around that. And Russia didn't find this cheap money, so-called subsidized export credit for Kazakhstan, and Kazakhstan has decided to build its own with Chinese companies with Chinese technologies, and we held some broadcasts on that with some experts, Yuri Melnikov, in particular, who is international expert and he a very high skilled and technological expert, and he's basically in green agenda more or less, but also he's a very good expert on all those technological things for thermal power stations. And he told that it's not a problem for Chinese companies to build CHP, which is combined heat and power. It's a kind of Russian unique things, especially the big ones. It's not Russian but Soviet. It was started back in 100 years ago, because Russia has this kind of climate. I mean, Russia in general terms, I mean, the Soviet Union, Kazakhstan also, it's a cold climate, and also those big cities with multiple story buildings. And district heating is very widespread in Russia, in Kazakhstan, and all post-Soviet countries, except those the southern ones. And I had some doubts that Chinese are able to get into this kind of process of building CHP effectively. But Yuri told me that it told our viewers also that it's not a problem at all. But what is interesting that Kazakhstan is paying on its own, and if we just look at the amount of money, which is it is going to spend, it's about 380 billions of tenge. So yes, which is quite a money, because you have to just divide by 500, roughly 550 right now, and you got $10. And the thing is, the cost of 1 kilowatt is of installed capacity is going to be like $3,000, something like that. That's a first station, because they're talking about three stations there. And it's well, it is interesting that if Kazakhstan pays on its own, so he chooses Chinese technologies, not Russian. It's kind of politically interesting and politically related, to my understanding. That is we see right now. Why it's so, we will see in the near future the development of that, because I think it's as with the NPP, with nuclear power plants, there are too many politics, to my understanding, in all those processes when they make a final decision. And now I just want to say goodbye for you and see you next time. Thank you.